Welcome to the Emme Factor Live, a space where art of movement meets wisdom of the heart. My name is Em, and I am hoping to take your yoga practice to the next level this year. You are joining me at episode 6 of online teachings that I would like to offer for everybody who is interested. My intention for these teachings is to make you think about yoga and exercise and fitness in general from a little bit different angle. I want to invite you to dive a little bit deeper with me because there's so much complexity in our training, and I think there's a lot of confusion out there. Way too much information, and I hope I can provide a little bit of clarity and light to help you navigate this a little bit better. So today's topic, you are joining me at episode 6. If you have missed one of the other episodes, you can re-watch them on my YouTube channel, Emme Factor. With a little bit of time, this is not just a quick 1-minute thing. Sit down, take a deep breath, and allow this to enter your mind and your heart a little bit. So all of these teachings are built up in a way where they can really provide a lot of help in your yoga practice. So I hope you enjoy this. Today's topic is one of my favorite, yoga and flexibility. The number one reason why people come to yoga is because they want to be more flexible. In all my years of teaching, and I always had my students fill out a little waiver where they had to say why they're coming. The number one reason is to be more flexible. Number 2 is I want to de-stress. I want to have more peace of mind. My life is very stressful, so I want my yoga practice to give me this. Number 3 is I want to have a healthy, strong, and fit body. And I want physically to be in a better place. A lot of times that has to do something with your posture too. Number 4 is I want to learn to meditate. And number 5 is my doctor told me I should do yoga. So there you got it. These are the top 5 reasons why people come to yoga class. And today we are going to jump a little bit deeper into flexibility. So when we talk about flexibility, what do we really mean with that? For that we need to see who is asking that question. So I have got my iPad here, and I have a little helper device. I hope this is going to illustrate this for you a little bit better. When we think about flexibility, the first thing that you have to realize is, what is your story? Who is asking that question, I want to be more flexible? Is it a 20-year-old athlete who plays soccer, professional or amateur, and wants to not get injured and wants to improve his speed, his running, his sprinting, his skill with the ball? Is this question asked by somebody who is in their 50s, somebody who is active and plays tennis and golf and all kinds of other sports, and is very active and has a regular workout regimen? And does she want to be more flexible? Or is it a person who says, I have a job where I sit 12 hours a day on my chair, and then at home I come home and I sit again on the couch and I feel like I'm getting stiffer and stiffer and I want to be more flexible. So it is really, really important to understand that flexibility is not just one thing that fits all. There's a huge difference. Who is asking that question? How your body is. If somebody has extremely long legs and a small torso, folding down forward and touching your toes is going to be completely different than somebody who has much shorter legs and maybe a much longer torso and then folds forward. So we need to understand that flexibility is very, very personal. So to just go online and ask ourselves, what are the best 5 exercises to get flexible shoulders, get more flexibility in our body? I'm going to come to this in a moment. Always needs to be examined who is asking that question. Yeah, this makes a huge difference. What do you want with the flexibility? And this is what leads me to my second part is when people say they want to be more flexible, in my experience, it is not that they want huge range of motion in their joints. I think when people say they want more flexibility, it means that they feel stiff in the mornings maybe. Maybe they feel the body is tight and limited when they move. Maybe some of the movements that they were able to perform earlier, they're not able to perform anymore. Maybe they feel tense, yeah? When my shoulders and my back are tense because I'm sitting too much and I'm in this hunched and crunched position most hours of the day. Then the body is going to feel tight. And I think a lot of us just say, hey, I need to be more flexible. But again, if we start to dig a little bit deeper, you will learn that there's a difference between tension and tightness and weakness. And I think all of this is really important. What goal are you looking at and how can I get you there? Yeah, because it is different if it is tension in the body because I'm stressed mentally or emotionally. My body can feel very, very tight if I am stressed. My body can feel tight because I'm working out too much or I'm not giving enough rest. So do you see this? Your personal story is super important, yeah? Then this is if you want to train smartly, if you want your yoga practice to become valuable to you, not just generic, and this is where we start. Okay, number 2 is, what is flexibility? So if I asked you that, what is flexibility? What would you say? Yeah, I think flexibility is somehow something different for every one of us. And we often throw these words around, and it is important that we all talk about the same thing. Yeah. So what I did is I went into, I Googled and I looked at the definition, just the definition of flexibility, not concerning movement. And I found this really interesting. Flexibility is the quality of bending easily without breaking, or the ability to be easily modified. And the third thing is willingness to change or compromise. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting because we think about flexibility only in our physical body. But if you think about yoga, remember, yoga is mind, body, and spirit. And see that some of the definitions here, the ability to be easily modified, we can take that also into our mental mindset and also into our emotional state. Am I able to be easily modified? Am I able to adapt easily? This is what we learn in yoga. Yeah? I thought this was wonderful. Or willingness to change and compromise. How often are we in class or we're exercising or we're trying to learn something new that we can't do, and we are not really willing to change or compromise? That's a really hard thing to do. Yeah? So think about this. This is flexibility when we just look at the word. In movement, flexibility, also in the world of movement and in movement science, there's also not one definition that fits all. And the reason for that is that even in these times, we still don't understand everything and how the human body works. And so it is really important to understand that it is very complex. And when we talk about flexibility in movement, in exercise, in training, we have two words that, especially the second one, has evolved a lot within the last 10 years, I would say, to differ. So there's flexibility and there's mobility. And so some theories say that flexibility in our body pertains quite directly to the muscles and the tissue. And the tissue is basically everything that is within that is movable, yeah? Connective tissue. I will get into this in other episodes a little bit deeper if you're interested in this. So a muscle can be stretched. A muscle can be stretched and a muscle can contract. Mobility, on the other side, when you read about this in the articles, often pertains, most of the time pertains to joint movement. Yeah, when we talk about mobility, we talk about how can our joints, which are designed to move, yeah, elbow joint, knee, hip, ankles, neck, spine, shoulders, we have movability, and these joints allow us to move easily, or they don't allow us to move easily. Yeah, so when you talk about flexibility in the movement arena, we need to think about stretching muscles and allowing tissue to move, and also on the other side, mobility, which usually pertains to joints. Okay, so this is really important to understand. Remember, when somebody is inflexible, when we feel like we need more flexible, usually it means we are restricted in our movements. And the restriction comes absolutely through the muscles, and it also comes in the joints. Yeah, just remember this. This is, I think, very interesting to know. Okay, what is flexibility? So I hope this helps a little bit to understand. Now, number 3 is, and I know you don't hear this often, what about genetics? What about it? I think that we often forget that to a large degree, our flexibility absolutely is determined by our genes. And that is not a carte blanche to say, well, then I've always been stiff my whole life, I'm not going to get there, so I don't even need to stretch, I don't even need to do anything. Of course, it doesn't mean that. You know this. It means that you need to understand where your starting point is. You need to understand a realistic expectation of how quickly can I get to where I want to be. You know this. There are, if you've been in yoga class, there are people who are quite flexible. And there are people who are quite flexible naturally, which means they go to their first yoga class and they can, I always like to say this, plop into the poses because their joints and their tissue and their muscles allow them this range of motion. Yeah, we have about 20%. That's research says this about, we can't determine this 100%. About 20% of people are hyperflexible, which means they have a way larger range of motion. So I might be somebody who isn't as flexible. And I can tell you in my story, I am not one of the most flexible yoginis if you compare me to somebody who is hyper flexible. And I think that a lot of my work that I have done in my yoga practice was to work on my flexibility to get into certain poses. And after a lot of years, there are a lot of things that I can do, but there are certain things that I will never be able to do. Not never, but that still after 30 years, I am not forcing myself into because my body is just not constructed that way. And this is another episode. I want to talk about this stand alone because I think this is super important, yeah? So yes, there is a good portion of genetics that plays a role in how flexible you are. Does that mean you should not stretch? No. Does this mean that we have to be realistic in where we are going and how much time and effort this takes to get there? Absolutely, yeah? So this was number 3, genetics. Here comes number 4, which we have to consider. What is your goal? Okay, so I talked about the athletes who need flexibility to perform their sport better, to not get injured. And I talked about somebody who might not be as athletic and who doesn't have a exercise regimen. How can we help this person to feel better in their bodies and to feel like there's no restriction? So you have to ask yourself, what is my goal? In yoga, if you look at a lot of the advanced poses, these are postures that are quite, that require a huge range of motion. Is that what you want? Do you want to perform at Cirque du Soleil? If yes, you have to practice completely differently than somebody who says, hey, I am 50 years old and I want to feel good when I pick something up from the ground, when I move myself in daily movements. This is a completely different expectation. So please remember, what is your goal? And that determines how much effort and how much time you will have to put in there to get more flexible, yeah? So this is number 4. I see that there are some people there. Please let me do this quickly. I still haven't figured out, I always have to take my glasses. Oh, there's Vicky, wonderful. And we have Knut there. And Martin, yes, from Norway. This is fabulous. And somebody else I can't read. So I promise you I'm going to figure this out. This is really small. I might have to do this on my iPad too. I will get better at this. Hello, welcome. Please leave your comments, yeah? Okay, so number 4 was, what was your goal? Very, very important. Number 5 is, are my hamstrings tight or weak or both? So, when people come to me and say, I have tight hamstrings, or my back is hurting and my core is not strong enough, how do you get to that judgment? Have you gotten a consultation with somebody who has looked at your body? Or are you just thinking your hamstrings might be tight? Do you know the difference between how it feels when the hamstring is tight and how it feels when the hamstring is weak? Or when range of motion is impaired in the joint, or range of motion is impaired in the muscle? There's a huge difference. And I think that a lot of us, we just don't have the body awareness to know all these things. We have to learn this, yeah? And this is an amazing part of getting better in your yoga practice or getting better in training. This is very, very important. So I wrote, get a consultation, yeah? Go to a professional, go to a movement expert, go to somebody who can look at you, can look at your movement, can evaluate you. Get a starting point. Where am I? What is my status right now? Let me see where I am. Let me understand this. Because if you do that, you're not training in the dark. I always say this, yoga practice in the dark. We really don't know what we're doing. We're just following the class. But if you really want change in your own personal body, in your journey, if you want to get more flexible, yes, you need to start somewhere where somebody can look at you, a person you can trust. This can be a chiropractor, this can be a yoga teacher who does private consultations and evaluations. I do this. This is part of my work. Yeah, not everybody does this. Find somebody who is a professional, who's a movement expert, who can look at your body, evaluate you, and say, okay, here's a path. This is how we can get more flexible. This is what you need to remember. And I think this is a much smarter way than just going to class and following that, what everybody else does, without a clear path of where you're going. Yeah. So this was number 5. Let me see. It always changes when I move it. So here comes number 6. What shall we do? Number 1, recognize. So like this video that I'm making here and explaining these things, take time to learn these things. Start to think about it a little bit deeper. The reason why so many people don't get anywhere in exercise and fitness, in yoga, is because we're not diving a little bit deeper. We're staying on the surface. And if you're staying on the surface, there's not going to be a lot of growth, yeah? Recognize these things, this stuff that I've been talking about. What is flexibility? What does that mean for me? Where am I going with this? Number 2, get curious. Yes, ask questions. This is my whole purpose for these videos. Don't just take what somebody says. Get curious and ask why. Okay, what does that mean for me? Why shall I do this? Yeah, this is important. Dive deeper. I just talked about that. Yeah, and learn and grow. Learn and grow. When we want to learn something, you have to start and you have to build this up. So this whole video right now is about the foundation and the fundamentals of what flexibility means. And I think from there, your practice can grow completely differently because you are going to think about this a little bit differently and hopefully get more curious and ask questions that somebody like me can get an answer. And this will create a change that will change your practice forever. Yeah, I know it sounds too easy and too good to be true, but this is the work. That's the reason why a lot of people are not growing in their fitness regimen, in their exercise, in their yoga practice. Because we are really not taught a lot to go deeper. And we're left alone with all this information out there online that really doesn't help us, that sometimes makes us more confusing. That doesn't mean that there's not good stuff out there. Find those people who know what they're talking about and follow them. Yeah, and I hope you follow me. I hope you find that interesting. And I hope there are questions that will come out of this. Funny example. A couple of days ago, somebody said to me, yeah, I watched your video and I think I had more questions afterward than going in. Good. Yes, I want you to start to think about this. I want you to start having more questions. And I'm not here to give you the 5 best solutions. No, it's not that easy. I will give you small little paths that you can look at and start to go deeper from there. Yeah? Yes, of course I can give you a solution. Of course I can give you exercises. But really, is this the best way to move us forward? Yeah? So if you go out of these videos with me and you feel, wow, that leaves me with more questions, what shall I do? Well, send your questions in. Let's talk about it. Let's bring all of this out to the open. And that's different than me immediately telling you, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I don't know anything about you. So find somebody who you can work with closer, and I promise you There's no way I have ever practiced, I have taught a client, I've worked with a client who didn't grow when we started to create a depth in knowledge, a depth in understanding, and a depth in realizing things that you didn't even know. Body awareness is another thing that I want to talk about. Yeah, so all of this in due time. So let me check here one more time who is there. Okay, I hope this helps a little bit. Okay, yes, I think this is Gregory up there too. Yes. All right. So, flexibility. I'm going to take this and go through it one more time so that you don't forget. When we think about flexibility, we have to start with our personal story. Yeah? Who am I? Who is my body? Where am I starting? What do I want this for? Yeah? Number two, what is flexibility? I talked a little bit about this. Go back if you want to hear it again. Number three, the role of genetics. Yeah? Don't underestimate the role of genetics. If you know your body well, your training, your yoga practice is going to be designed completely differently than somebody who is different from you. Very, very important. Yeah? Number four, what is your goal? Why do you feel you want to be flexible? What do you need it for? And remember, tension and tightness can be emotional. It can be mental. So it's not always just stretching my shoulder and my spine. There are a lot of different things to consider. Number five, are my hamstrings really tight or weak? Or both? Get a consultation. Yeah? Get somebody to look at you. Get evaluated. Ask your trainer, ask your yoga teacher, look at me, can you help me a little bit? Yeah? Or ask me. Number six, what shall we do? Recognize, get curious, dive deeper, and learn and grow. Yeah? I hope this is helpful. And I hope if you have questions, you will send them to me and I can talk about it, and eventually you will spur a little bit more of a conversation. Thank you for listening. Last episode, I forgot the song of the day. Can you imagine? I was so happy that somebody asked a question that I forgot the song of the day. But today I didn't. So here it is. I reminded myself, and it is a beautiful, lovely song by Shantae Savage, and it's called I Will Survive. It's a beautiful, beautiful version of Gloria Gaynor's song, I Will Survive. I know many of you know that song. It's very soulful, and I think a lot of us have sang that song at a certain time in our life. Okay, let's see if I can do this again here. All right. Okay, ready? Here we go. Oh, now go, walk out the door, 'cause turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to hurt me with goodbye? Did you think I'd crumble? Did you think I'd lay down and die? Oh no, not I. I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I'd stay alive. 'Cause I got all my life to live, and I've got all my love to give. I will survive. I will survive. Yes, that's a lovely, lovely song. My heart always lights up. Okay, that was it for today. Thank you for watching. Leave me your comments. Get curious. Learn and grow. I'm here to assist you this year if you let me, and I will see you next time.